1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Hey, there we are. Detroit, City of Champions, the podcast. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Charles Avison.
We are diving into the 1935 year when Detroit was alive with victory.
Yeah, this is an incredible season, man. This is the granddaddy of them all.
And the things that led up to it, and the people and the players and the owners and the coaches and just everything that made 1935 happen. In the last couple episodes, we've been talking about Potsy and how he took the Portsmouth Spartans and turned them around and made it just this amazing machine down in Portsmouth, Ohio.
Exactly.
And then the guy from WJR, what was that cat's name again?
George Richards.
I work for those people. I should know this.
Yeah.
George Richards owned JR, and he bought the Lions.
Yes.
And brought
There's
them
a
to
whole syndicate. There's an ownership syndicate.
I want to do an episode about
George Richards.
George Richards.
Yeah.
And I want to bring in like our current general manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If he'll be on. I don't know.
Yeah, I love diving deeper into it. And the other thing too is to
Mary
be honest
Brenner,
with
the
you,
owner of the station.
And to be honest with you, my in-depth, my dive into George Richards, really, I mean, there's not that much stuff out there about him. And so if there is anybody at WJR that maybe has access to the archives,
right,
there might be some really, really cool stuff down there.
If we only knew someone that worked there.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying.
I got a key card, brother. Yeah. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Let's do a podcast from the archives.
There isn't crap, man. There's
You'd be surprised. They might have some kind of archive, like some kind of archival tapes. Here's the thing: is after this, we're going to be talking about the City of Champions Day party. But after the party, they had a whole interview with like all of the different champions there and everything. Like there might be some gold stuff down there that nobody has even looked at in years.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd just be surprised. Who knows? Right. Especially when you're looking at it with a different pair of eyes.
We'll dig around.
Yeah.
So, but I want to do that. I want to talk to them.
Do a show from there, man. We'll just dig through there.
Oh, yeah.
Dig through the archive.
Totally in. But Potsy, he was amazing because he had an amazing football career himself.
He's awesome before this.
And retired as a player at the end of World War I when he played with his outfit and won that championship.
American Expeditionary Force Championship. Yeah.
And then moved into the coaching and created. And I find that interesting because, again, I know nothing about sports, and you're like, the Portsmouth Spartans.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, crap. It's like Michigan State. I wonder if that is an homage to those Spartans. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. How long is?
I don't want to say
Michigan,
no, but
I'm curious if if that ties in. I don't. It
could. I don't want to say no.
I mean, there's only so many team names. It's like,
and the Spartans are a legendary type of a warrior.
Name.
Warrior.
I wonder if that's connected though.
There might be. I don't know.
If only we knew someone who did research.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're baseball right now. You're busy.
I am doing baseball with my other project. I barely make it to the show on time because it's so and then I almost have to leave early because it's so all consuming. But But anyways,
so
I don't know, but that'd be like if somebody listening to the show that was a Michigan State fan. Maybe they have a little bit more in depth, even a Michigan State, like where did the Spartans thing come from?
Why is that name? I'm just curious if it's an homage to that, if it's tied to that at all, the legendary, the legend of the Lions before they were the Lions. And
I don't know.
The powerhouse that the Portsmouth, Ohio was.
Yeah. And the thing about the Spartans and the thing about the early history of the Lions is that they're the story of these two teams and how how they came to Detroit and everything. Yeah. It is so fragmentary. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of different sources that talk about it, but you just get little scraps of unique information. Most of them almost every. They all tell generally the same story because that's the story they have to tell. Yeah. But you'll see little nuggets of information that are different from different sources, and that's kind of what I was doing was cobbling it all together, was putting all the bringing stuff out of the Detroit Times and stuff like this.
Well, and that's what Detroit City of Champions is, these trilogy of books where you've parsed together
combined
all these things to make them make sense.
Yeah, but that stuff I didn't find, and that's what I mean. Yeah. It's that's a question that maybe even a Michigan State Spartan, somebody that's really into the history.
Yeah.
maybe they
we'll find that out.
It. Yeah.
Was that something? I said something because I do some work up at Michigan State with the scholastic journalism.
But you give one of these diehard fans a challenge.
I got my undergrad at U of M in Dearborn,
Yeah.
and then I have my journalism certifications through state. I got my master's from Wayne State, Detroit. So I don't know what sweatshirt to wear. I'm really confused. But so I got friends on both ends. It's the house divided for me.
Sure, you're divided amongst your own self. You got to wear like a quilted shirt with all different pieces on it.
It's it's just each one of those voices in my head gets their own sweatshirt to wear.
Yeah, that's good. You can rock it whatever days suit you the best.
So what more do we need to know about Potsy? Where do we leave off? Where are we going?
Well, we left off in the last show talking about the American football player.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we want to. Can we put that up on the screen just to show anybody that's viewing the show?
I didn't do my.
It's the headshot of Dutch Clark with the side angle.
Oh yeah, that astounding photo.
Yeah, that photo,
and it was like it ended up in Life or Time
magazine.
Time magazine. Yeah, just this, and it was like a candid photo that the guy snapped
bottom left,
bottom, yeah,
with the head to the side there. There you go.
Yeah, the Spartan looking fella.
So that is like that photo is so cool. It's actually got like a name.
Yeah,
that is called the American football player.
Jeez.
And like that photo, I mean, that is as iconic of NFL as you get.
I'm pretty heterosexual and everything, but that is a good looking fella. Is what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's my thought so too. But anyways, yeah. So that photo was seen out. It comes out in the Detroit News. It was again William Kunzel, like just an absolutely basically any iconic Detroit sports history photo. Tigers, Lions, even it's even a couple Red Wings, but especially Tigers and Lions. But this is really the most iconic Lions photo. But some of the early really iconic with the photo with Ty Cobb sliding into third base. That is William Kunzel, that iconic image. And so William Kunzel did this photo. We read in last week's show, the very tail end, the story of how he got that photo, of how he got this. And after he took the photo and it got big, he put it in the Detroit News, and they the readers requested actual full photos of it, like copies of it, instead of just a newspaper image. And so it was so popular in Detroit that it got into Time Life magazine. It was seen by everyone across the country. And then William Kunzel, they tried, even Dutch Clark even said,
let's do a photo shoot and get a really good one.
Exactly. And then when he said, Dutch Clark even said in the last show, we read the quote, how Dutch was even saying he must have shot 100 photos and none of them ever came out as good as that one.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one first shot, that unpredictable shot.
That's why and I tell my kids it's like happy accidents, because that's how I teach journalism, and that's part of it, the yearbook and the newspaper, and it's they have to go out and capture these moments. And the beautiful thing about today with digital is like shoot. You're not gonna, you might fill up the card, but you're not really gonna run out. And because you never know when you're gonna hit that. You get that. You gotta be smart. You gotta have your eyes open. You have to. You gotta work at it. But
there's the photo of like the Iwo Jima photo with the flag raising, and that they took a bunch of photos from that too. And
you mentioned
one
that
shot,
time.
the one shot, they made a whole movie about it. The Flags of Our Fathers.
Oh my God,
amazing movie. Yeah. And they show how that photo, how major, that photo, just that one photo, the impact that it had.
Well, because that was almost staged, though, right?
No,
according to the legend,
when they took
according to the legend, no, but the because they put a flag up, and they were like, and then the one officer was like, "Oh, I want that flag, bring it down." They're like, "He's not getting this flag." Yeah, and so they put up a different one.
Exactly.
And the photo came when they were putting up the second
one. And then so they took the shot, but it was like, but it wasn't necessarily like staged.
Yeah.
The guy just took the shot and
it wasn't
nailed
the first time it happened.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what's great about that movie is they sort of detail like what happened.
Oh, and then what happened to those guys.
And all the guys, they were all talking, they all had stories like we weren't, the original guy, did this and the other. But they're like, it doesn't really matter. Like we're trying to like keep the morale going for the war, and you guys are the flag raisers in this photo.
That is an amazing, and that's what I love about. That's what is pompous prick that I am. That's what I love about this show. That's what I love about your books.
Yeah,
and the stories that you tell. I love these little nuggets of history and these little sideways things that that people don't know. And as it unfolds, you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Seriously?
No, but that's what I'm saying. This photo, as simple as it may seem, like a lot of times, that photo's been seen before. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most well-published photo today, but then again, it's not the least unpublished either. Every once in a while it pops up and you see that photo and you go, oh, that's cool, man. That's a great shot. But what a lot of people don't realize is just the impact that photo had. I'm not saying it was in the caliber of the Iwo Jima flag raising photo, but in its own way, it was in its own way, for what it did. Because what it did was it was seen by everybody in Detroit, first of all. Yeah. And again, the Lions had failed. The NFL had failed to establish a team in Detroit 3 times prior to this in much better economic circumstance, the 1920s. Yeah. And then so here's the Lions, Detroit, the Tigers go crazy in 1934. They bring in the Portsmouth Spartans, change the name to the Lions because they're trying to associate with the wildly popular Tigers. And so, all of a sudden they issue this photo. And it's just an incredible photo. Yeah. And so everybody in Detroit's like asking for reprints and, actual photos of it. So that alone generates interest in the team. And everybody's identifying with the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. All right. Like all the other team names that were prior to this are all basically forgotten about. Now it's the Lions, Dutch Clark, the Lions, the Ty Cobb of football. The name Lions is becoming synonymous with, Detroit now has an NFL team. As small as the NFL might be at this moment, that's their team, is the Lions. The branding is what emerges out of this photo. And so not only and the photo is so cool and so well received in Detroit that it's now seen that Time Life magazine picks it up and features it in their issue, which I think we talked about. I think it was December 28th. I got it written down, but it was December 28th, 1934. Yeah, that's the issue that it comes out in. And so it's being seen in the off seasons after the season's over. And so it becomes seen to a nation of Time Life magazine readers who are also, whether you like the Detroit or the Lions, whatever, you can't help but be, sort of taken by that photo. Like, that is a cool photo. Yeah, hell yeah. And so but now you're seeing that, like, some people across the country are seeing this, and they are also identifying the NFL with Detroit, with the Lions. That it's the branding of that. You see, it spread the awareness of the Lions' existence to a nation of fans, or a nation of potential fans, even if they weren't necessarily fans of the NFL. They, from then on, anytime they did, that was that association with the
Lions,
photo,
Tigers,
the
Lions, Tigers, Detroit,
exactly.
Lions, Tigers.
So that's what I'm saying.
That groove is there.
Yeah. So that's where we left off last week. We were talking about that photo, and it's a really good place to start because it's that photo really was a transition because it was appeared in that Time Life in December of 1934. After this, the Lions had in essence collapsed at the end of 1934. They started off the season 7 straight shutouts, didn't give up a single point, 10 straight wins, just romped through everybody. The first team that did score on them, they put was the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Lions romped them 40-7 because they were so mad that the team had scored had scored on them and broke their streak. And so anyways, so the reason why the team lost at the end of the day, they lost to the Packers 3-0. A team that they beat 3-0 earlier in the season with Glenn Presnell's record 54-yard field goal. And then they lost to the Bears twice in a row at the end of the season. And so to the fans of Detroit that were all of a sudden thinking that they might get a consolation prize after losing the 1934 World Series, they're like, oh, we the Lions, we'll get an NFL championship. And no, they folded at the end of the year. And people are like, what happened? The Bears and Packers, who are these people? That's what I'm saying. Now all of a sudden you're starting to these fans that are becoming fans of this NFL team. That is the beginning of these rivalries. The rivalry had already existed with the Spartan players and with Potsy Clark.
So there was already the rivalry. I'm going to take you with 11 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That was already game was
on. So the team and Potsy had already had this rivalry that extended back with the Packers and Bears. Those are their top 2 nemesis.
That's good drama. That makes good.
Yeah, and so now the fans are getting exposed to this rivalry. And the thing about it is that rivalries are essential. I talk about it in the book. I have a whole section on it. Rivalries are often like, just kind of going, oh, rivalry is good. Okay. But a rivalry brings additional interest, even in seasons where a team is not necessarily, playing well. It's that rivalry game, which, really amps up the fans and keeps people coming back. Even if your team is not out of, is out of the championship picture, you still have that game that's like, we don't care about a record. We care about beating this team today,
Yeah.
So that this is the beginning of those rivalries with those two teams. And as we're going to talk about today, that rivalry extends, into 35, and it leads to one of the most incredible. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff that I get excited about in this story, but the ending of the 1935 season, we're not going to talk about exactly what happened in the 1935 championship game,
right?
As per usual, because we're going to lead that to a finale where we talk about all the championships in a row. But the regular season, what happens to the Lions in 1935 and what they overcome is unbelievable.
All right, so I didn't see. And here's the thing, because you and I have talked a bunch about this, and you're a baseball guy generally. I mean, you love all.
But
you love them all.
Yeah.
And when we've talked, it's been the elevator pitch. We haven't been. So I have no idea what you're talking about. How 1935.
No one does. That's what I mean. Like the story of this. That's what I'm so excited about doing this show and talking about this particular thing. There's so many fascinating stories, but this story here, they're all, it's tough to say like which one is my favorite. I actually would say Garwood is my favorite, and that's not going to be talked about for a while. So we're going to leave people hang and wait for down the road a little bit. But this story's, it's by the time I'm done telling the story, like tell me, anybody that's watching this, tell me this is not one of the best NFL football stories you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong. So we begin with this idea that the Lions had folded at the end of the season to the Bears and the Packers at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And Potsy Clark realizes that the reason why that they had lost is that he had been overutilizing his number one stars. Okay, Dutch Clark, Glenn Presnell, Frank Christensen. Frank Christensen was one of their best. He was their best punter. But punting was a huge element of the game. It was field position back then, a lot of field position game.
Okay.
But a lot of their starters had been just mangled, and they were by the end of the year they were playing, and they were like they should not have been on the field. They were walking wounded. Beyond walking wounded, they were walking mangled.
No concussion protocols.
No, they were
wearing those leather helmets.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Protocol. They don't even know what that is back then. So he realized that his number one stars had been badly overused.
Okay.
And so he needed to now to bolster that starting group with some new blood, with some new stars. And so this team, keep in mind, we've already talked about this. This team had won 10 straight games, shut out seven straight teams. So this is a pretty good team, right? This is a pretty good team. They're doing stuff. You look at the NFL record books especially for defense, and you're going to go through the list and see a ton of records that are just sprinkled in there. 1934 Lions, peppered all the way through the list. Mm-hmm. And so, this is a pretty good team to sit there and go, I got to make some major changes for this team. That's a pretty gutsy move. And so, but he does. He knows he needs to. He needs to bring in a stronger reserve depth that he can rely on these reserve guys more. So basically, he can protect his stars, meaning Dutch Clark, Glenn Presnell, and these guys. He can save them and keep them in as best shape as possible till the end of the season, and then unleash them, in prime shape. That is his plan going into 1935.
All right,
and to facilitate that, go ahead.
So I have that image that you sent me with the map
there
with the Z on it.
It's a great way to bring it in.
I have that, and then the video that you sent me. I have that, but it's a little long.
Why don't we save the video Potsy for the end, and we'll kind of give it like a little homage to
Okay,
Potsy.
there's like 5. It's like 5 minutes. It's a little over 5 minutes long.
Just the first 30 seconds is good enough. I just wanted to show what Potsy looks like in that leather jacket.
Okay, I didn't know what you needed out of that, but I was able to. That's why I've been trying to pull that up and get that extracted.
Well, we're good for a quick second. Let me explain. Because we'll bring up the timeline.
I got it. That's easy as that.
So anyways, the idea is what Potsy does is this is his brainchild.
Mm-hmm.
Is he has on September 6th, he has what's called the varsity versus freshman game.
Oh, okay.
So over 48 college stars are invited to play against the Lions veterans.
Oh,
okay. Yes, and back then they all played. They played at Cranbrook University. That was what their practice field was.
Right.
Cranbrook was where they practiced and lived and stayed.
And because and it was its college was a little more popular than
massively more popular.
The NFL.
Yes.
At the time.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was a ton of stars that came out of there. And so the varsity, meaning the Lions, pounded on the freshmen. I don't have the score right here. I know I have it somewhere. I was looking for it before the show. But they beat them pretty good. I think it was like 35-8 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they beat them pretty good. And but anyways, out of this varsity versus freshman game, 8 players are chosen to become Detroit Lions on the 27-man roster.
Did they know that was part of the deal, or was
absolutely.
it was kind of a scouting thing?
Yeah, they wouldn't bring these guys in unless they were trying to bring, trying to identify players. Yeah,
that's interesting because they didn't have the combine back then.
But what better way to have a combine? Like, think about how valuable that would be today.
This is probably like one of the first combines.
Yeah, it is, but it's better than any combine that
they're really playing.
Today.
Oh yeah, you're jumping up and how high you can hit, or imagine, 100-yard dash.
Imagine if a team was allowed to bring in college players.
How do you 100-yard dash if somebody's on your heels?
Exactly. How
really
you
trying
actually
to
get
tackle
to see how they perform against NFL players.
Yeah.
Like, what a better way to do a combine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant thing, and that's Potsy. Or the lead off of the episode. The lead of the episode is the forgotten genius of Potsy Clark.
Yeah.
And this is him. This is from, as far as I've seen, I've not seen any other coach that did something like this.
And then going back to 31, when he had the balls
and
to
overturn 19 new guys on that team,
just cut the number on the team and kept like 8 or 9 guys, and just astounding.
Kept 8 or 9. He got rid of 19 guys and brought in I think it was 19 new guys on that team.
Can you imagine an NFL team today?
Yeah.
Eliminating 3/4 of their roster.
Would never happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
2/3 of their roster.
It's too radical. They'd be like, that's crazy. Why would you get rid of these? It's too so he, 1931, he recognized the need for a massive overhaul of that team. And then going into 1930, at the end of 1934, he recognizes a team that's what I'm trying to keep in mind. A team that won 10 straight games and 7 straight shutouts needs to be overhauled with 8 new guys on a 27-man roster. That's what I'm saying. Like,
well, that only got him to second place.
Exactly. He's like, we're trying to win it all. Yeah. Right? Like, that's not good enough. We need to overhaul this team. And he does. But what's important to understand about this in particular, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I almost want to do an episode of this freshman varsity game. I just wish I had the score here. I got to dig it a little deeper. But because I at least want to talk about because the guys coming out of this are essential, and we will talk about them in more detail later. But one of the essential components to understand, and we've talked about his name before, Father Lumpkin. Okay. Father Lumpkin, we may have not gone too deeply into. We've talked about how Father Lumpkin was a fan favorite. Okay, he goes all the way back. He was the guy that Potsy threw off his team on the very first day of practice in 1931. He was a team captain. He was a fan favorite. He's one of the number 1 players in the team. He was a blocking back, a tough linebacker type. Played on defense. He was that tough tackling guy that went up to, faced off against the Bronco Nagurskis of the other side. He was a great player. Father Lumpkin was an excellent player. And anyways, Father Lumpkin is cut from the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
they cut him. Potsy cuts Father Lumpkin to make room for one of these 8 rookies. Okay, this is like the effect that this has, on this team that you've just lost. This team leader, team captain. He was a fullback, he was a running back, but he also on defense he would switch around and play linebacker. So he was a tough tackler, runner. He primarily served on offense as a blocker, and he was an excellent blocker. I mean, he's regarded as one of, if not the best blocking back in the league. And so anyway, so Father Lumpkin is cut, and I wrote it into the screenplay. This is one of the main arcs of the 1935 Lions season in the screenplay. Is the way that I established the character in the screenplay is I build Father Lumpkin up so big in 1934 section of the story, and then when you cut him, like as a fan watching the movie, you're like the way I tried to set it up was like, you're like one of your favorite characters has just been killed off because he's just been written out of the story. He's been cut. That's how I wrote it in the movie because that's really what this is all about. Is Lumpkin gets cut. So anyways. So now this team is revamped. They got these new rookies. They're heading into the season. Unfortunately, the rookies did not click with the veterans. The Potsy's plan did not go according to plan. It did not work out the way that he wanted. And this is, go ahead.
So this game wasn't part of the regular season.
It's not mentioned anywhere. You'll never see anything
I'm looking.
Keep digging. Keep digging.
I'm thinking, I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up
only
for him.
Only in this book, bro.
Yeah, okay.
Only in this book. I've got all the articles here to back it up.
All right.
But otherwise, like I say,
God. I'm giving up. I'm not.
I'll show you photos if you want.
No. I'm finding stuff.
I want to do a whole show on it because it's a fascinating, the whole concept.
All right.
Especially since it takes place at Cranbrook. And anybody, all these people that, that people from Detroit know, Cranbrook is such a cool setting.
Oh yeah,
and this is they have dormitories. It's a college, it's art college, so it's cool that you think that the Lions and they actually have team photos. I have a photo in the book here. where they're posing in front of Cranbrook, the buildings. So anyways, so it did not go according to plan, at least initially. Okay. Yeah. And so I'm just that's why we have that the timeline up there, because that's pretty much what I'm going to read off for right now. So if you're at home and you can't see it, if you're listening to the podcast, don't worry about it, because I'm just
you can find it on Facebook and YouTube.
Because what's important to understand about this timeline, this is why I wanted to put it on the screen for those of you that can see it, and those of you that can't, we're going to read it straight off. And then what's important to understand is that all the events of the Lions represent the fulcrum, the pivot of the entire 1935 City of Champions season. Everything, even though they're the least talked about, they're the least covered, everything about their season revolves around everything that is going around in the City of Champions. Without the Lions, there would have been no City of Champions season, because again, they were the ones that sort of, the Tigers win the world. Joe Louis does his thing. The Tigers win the World Series, and it's like they pass the baton to the Lions, who grasp the baton, and they have it for the baton of victory, the victory flame, and they have it in their hand for but a second before they hand it to the Red Wings. Yeah. You see, and because the Red Wings, it was as they were passing it is when all of a sudden everybody, the reporters in Detroit are saying, my God, we could win them all this year. And it was the Lions' moment had already passed. You see, and it was then it was the Red Wings' chance to get all the attention, because they were the final leg of that sprint, winning that championships. So that's what I'm saying. But without them, there would have been no build up to the Red Wings.
So this game,
everything
finding these 8 players.
Well, yeah, that's what starts it, and that's like I say, September 8th, 1934. That happens. So going into, and I'll explain it. Anybody that can see the timeline on the screen can see it for themselves. But I'll go through it for, like I say, especially for those that are listening to the show. So September 20th is the first game of the Lions season, and they win their first game, 35-0. They beat the Eagles. Okay. So that's September 20th. September 21st, the Detroit Tigers clinched the 1935 pennant. Okay, so straight off of there. So right after this, they clinched the pennant. All right. So September 24th, Joe Louis defeats Max Baer. Okay, and we haven't got to Joe Louis yet. Right. We haven't got to Joe Louis yet. But this, when we do get to Joe Louis, the defeat of Max Baer is the signature moment of Joe Louis's entire season. Right. All right. This is a major event. This is such a major event that Mickey Cochran actually takes a game off. I mean, if the Tigers had just clinched the pennant, as we see here, the September 21st, Mickey Cochran actually plays hooky from a baseball game and sneaks off to New York to watch this Max Baer fight. Wow. That's how big that fight was. Wow. That Mickey had left the team. Die hard.
The manager, coach,
who would crawl through glass to win a game, sneaks off from a game against Cleveland. Called him sick. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Mickey, of all people, would never miss a kid, crawl through glass, let a player score at home plate, and he's skipping a game to go watch. So that's what I'm saying. So these are the events that are swirling around. Is Joe Louis's biggest moment in 1935.
So happens. That's just flooding the papers.
Yeah. So who cares? That's a great win, but the Lions are back news, right? And so game 2. The Lions tie the Chicago Cardinals 10-10. Again, okay, great. So that's game 2. So game 3, the Lions are beaten by the Brooklyn Dodgers. Okay, 12-10. And why is that significant? Because guess what team Father Lumpkin signed with? The Brooklyn Dodgers. Father Lumpkin goes to the Dodgers, in their first loss of the season, 1935. Keep in mind, the year before they lost a game to the 11th game of the season. They were dominant.
Right.
They're in their third game, Lumpkin is on that team.
So the guy they cut
is one. He's one of, he helps his new team beat the Lions. Okay. Yeah. And so the day after their first loss, October 7th, Tigers win their first World Series championship. Okay, the city is going nuts for the Tigers, right? The Lions, hey, we're still in it, guys. Yeah. Who cares? It is World Series.
We're cutting up the ticker tape for a parade.
Yeah, they are in the middle. They're rigging up machine guns in the bell towers in Detroit to add extra noise to the sound. Literally putting machine guns up in the bell towers of downtown Detroit to add noise to the festivities. And the Lions are 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 tie. Exciting. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about that. So that's what I'm saying. So shortly thereafter, so game 4, the Lions beat the Boston Redskins. Okay, great. So they're 2-1-1. Game 5, Lions are beaten by the Packers 13-9. There you go. So you see what I'm saying? So this is
Packers.
So you can see this new blood that's brought into this team is not gelling with this dude. I mean, you can just tell because I mean, this is a totally different team. They're getting beat. They're tying. They're getting beat. So anyway, so now we go into game 6. The Lions get a win, 14-0 over the Boston Redskins. All right. So game 7, November 4th, Lions defeat the Chicago Cardinals 7-6. Little squeaker. They get the victory. Okay. And then this is where it really starts to get. This is where my favorite part of the story really starts to emerge. Okay, so game 8, November 11th, the Lions are beaten by the Green Bay Packers 31-7. Oh, okay, this is the worst loss in the history of this team. As we for the 5th time or 10th time already, I want to point out that the 1934 Lions are not losing the game 31-7.
No, okay,
they're if they lost, they were losing 3-0. They're losing 16-9 maybe, but they're not going to get beat by the Packers 31-7. Okay, so this is the worst loss in this team's history.
It sounds like this team is going nowhere.
Exactly, that's the problem.
And because they were beautiful the year before and took second place.
Yeah, well, exactly. They had to win. They won 10 straight games and that didn't give up a point for the first 7 and finished in second place. Yeah, so they had to be elite.
So they are floundering here in 1935.
Horribly. Floundering so badly that at the end of game 8, after November 11th, the Lions are in last place. Oh, okay. Their record is 4-3-1.
Yeah,
they're in last place, and so facing the last, so they only have 4 regular season games remaining. Okay, and they're in last place. Now I want to tell you who the teams that they have to face. Okay. The Packers, who they just got beat 31-7, and they got beat earlier in the season 13-9. So they've already lost twice against the Packers. The most recent victory was a blowout. So they got to face the Packers in the very next game. Okay. Then they got to face the Bears twice. Okay. And so
the Bears.
And so the Bears, as we've talked about on the last show, they had not beaten the Bears since 1931. This franchise, the Spartans or anybody, had not beaten the Bears. They lost them in the 32 championship game. They lost to them in the Bears beat them in the first Thanksgiving game in 1934. The Bears eliminated, beat them twice in 1934 to knock them off, right? And so they got to face the Bears twice, once in the Thanksgiving game, right, in the 35 Thanksgiving game, and the final cherry on the tough to swallow cake of their final schedule, the Brooklyn Dodgers. They got to face the Dodgers with Father Lumpkin, who have already beaten them in the beginning of the season. Jeez. Okay, now as with their record, a 4-3-1 record, they're at the point where a loss in any of these games, and their season's over.
Oh yeah,
okay. And so we've already described here, we've got the rise of Joe Louis. We've got the Tigers winning their first World Series. If the Lions finish off this season without a championship or with just a mediocre finish or anything like this, the entire future of the franchise could be over. It could be irrelevant. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing worse than a team. If you're irrelevant and nobody cares about you, you're done. Yeah. And the NFL had failed 3 times to establish a team in the city prior to this. And that's what I'm trying to say. That's why this moment is such an incredibly pivotal time in the history of the Detroit Lions. Is if they would have just rolled over and been done with it and been like, we're done. We're last place. We're never going to beat the Packers after blew us out, the Bears, and Lumpkin, who's having a satisfactory,
season of a
bloodlust against our team for us cutting them. Yeah. So if we're pretty much done. I mean, like they talk about today, like the same old Lions. This wasn't the same old Lions.
Right.
Okay. This was not it, because the very next game against the Packers, they come out and beat the Packers 20-10.
Okay. All right.
Now we're moving, right? We just picked up a win in our very next game, right? So that's November 17th. November 24th, game 10, Lions versus Bears, okay? A tie. They don't beat them. Yeah, but a tie counts for no points for or against.
No up or down.
Exactly. Yeah. But I want to read you a quote.
It factors in differently today.
Yeah, I don't even think. Yeah, they can tie, but I think it counts as like half or something. I forgot exactly how less. But I want to read you just the first paragraph. This is coming from the first book. In the appendix of the first book, I put a game summary for every Lions game from 1935. And so I want to just read you just at least the introductory paragraph because these writers of this time were so sensational. This is Bud Shaver.
Just the language and the style was just so different. I love it.
Yeah. So the introduction. So this is totally worth it. This is a really long game description.
Yeah.
I just want to read the opening paragraph. So if anybody has the first book or wants to get if you ever want to read this article, this is in the appendix. So it's not
we call this reading along with Chuck.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. But they so if you ever want to, the appendix has got some real gems of information, even though it's not part of the main body of the work. So this is after that tie game with the Bears on what does it they say? So this article came out on November 25th, 1935, and it's written by Bud Shaver of the Detroit Times, who is one of my favorite writers of all time.
Right.
Okay. So anyways, so it says, Detroit Lions today are nursing honorable wound stripes that come from the turmoil of bitter conflict. Potsy Clark's steel-bodied and stout-hearted men battled the rugged Chicago Bears to a 20-20 tie in a free-scoring battle that gagged, stuttered, and bewildered a crowd of 14,624 at Wrigley Field yesterday afternoon. It was a game in which spectacular passes, long runs, and discouraging penalties at critical moments were interwoven into a brutal, slashing fabric of football that often found fights raging both on and off the field at one and the same time. And so here it is right here. So this is the final bit. So never in the history of pro football has a more harsh or pulverizing battle been played. Men collided as if shot from springs of steel. Several from both teams were carried off the battlefield, and most of them later returned to the sanguinary struggle to help sway the fast-changing gridiron drama that the football fates decided should end in a deadlock.
Polarizing, sanguinary. The language,
that's awesome, man. That's what could you imagine a reporter writing articles like that today?
No, and that's the
drama, man.
That's the problem. It's that rich language, and not afraid to use bold words
that the fates decided should end in a deadlock. Never before as a gridiron drama. That's what I'm saying. And when you're reading it,
is that editorializing?
No, when you read, I'm trying to say that article. That's why I said anybody that has the book that wants to read about this, it's really worth it because when you're reading the article, you're seeing this. They're it just goes back and forth, fights, scraps. He's not lying.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine with an intro build like that?
Right.
Okay. You go and you read the rest of the article
I'm going to the game.
It was all right.
I'm going to the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, though, can you imagine if you read the article, you're trying to catch up on it, and then the description of the article, the remaining of the game, they're like, there wasn't really much going on. It was just kind of a really tame, this huge buildup, and then otherwise, it's just kind of a lame description or whatever. No, man, the more you read that story, by the time you're reading it, you're thinking that literally some kind of clash of the titans has just taken place, and you were not there to watch it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just makes you want to go my God, that was incredible. And for me, the writer, putting this stuff together later on, 80 years later, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is so incredible. And that's what I'm saying. And really the reason I wanted to focus on that is because I've read, there's a ton of different articles about the games, and they're not all hyped like that.
Mm-hmm,
okay. And that's what I'm trying to say. And that's really what I'm trying to get at by focusing on this particular game, is that the write-ups of these games were not all like that. Okay. There was a reason why. And when you read the article in this book that talks about that particular game, you realize and think about what's going on at this moment. Okay, the Lions are fighting for maybe the survival of the franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, they're last place going in against the Packers. They beat the Packers, and now here they are. They got 2 games against the Bears, who they'd not beat since 1931. This is a rivalry that's developed for this long. Is it really that impossible or implausible that this game is going to be the culmination of just a warfare between this Lions team and the Bears? They cannot lose this game.
So
this is essential. What do
the Bears want? The Bears want to win too.
The Bears aren't trying to have the Lions or this Portsmouth team that they beat over and over again.
What are these Ohio boys doing in Detroit?
Well, exactly.
What's going on
also
here?
The rivalry, as we described. That's why we spent a lot of time introducing the rivalry with Potsy and this is George Halas. We read a quote where he flipped Potsy off during the 1933 championship game, and he tripped Ace Katowski running down the field on the. So
none of that stuff
These guys
is new.
hate each other.
Yeah,
the coaches hate each other. The players hate each other. These guys, and this is a rivalry. The Bears were partly responsible, at least as much as the Packers the previous year, for ending the Lions' incredible 1934 season.
So what happens with the Bears next?
Yeah. So anyway, so they tie the Bears 20-20, as we said, for this game.
Yeah.
Right. And so that sets up the game 11, Thanksgiving 1935.
So this is the second Thanksgiving game ever.
Yes, and the Bears had beat him in the last one in 1934. And this one, the Lions get their revenge, and they beat the Bears 14-2.
Finally.
Yes, and here's what's great is that they and so by beating the Bears, they number one, they eliminated the Bears from getting to the championship. Yes, and so they returned the favor from the previous Thanksgiving because the Bears eliminated them on that Thanksgiving game.
Right.
And it created a mathematical chance for the Lions to get to the 1935 NFL championship.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yes, I'm saying there's a chance. But in order for that
Carey
chance,
when you need. So you're saying there's a
this
chance.
is what they needed to have happen. There's a few. I think there was another one or two circumstances, but I'm going to kind of introduce what did happen to shave off like 4 other possibilities. So Lions had to win their next game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. Okay, and the Bears had to beat the Chicago Cardinals. Those were like really and that's and we're going to see here. Those are that's like the scenario that happened. And so it's a good chance of the Bears beating the Cardinals because the Bears are the Bears. But anyway, but the next game is the game that the Lions have to win, and it gets the Brooklyn Dodgers. Okay, It's against the Brooklyn Dodgers. Again, we've already introduced Lumpkin is on this team. Lumpkin is, has this now bloodlust for his former team of one of the best players in the NFL. And one of the reasons why that Lumpkin was cut was that supposedly like he was a great offensive player, he was a great defensive player, but he had one sort of major hole in his game, and that was his ability for pass coverage. He would give up long passing touchdowns every once in a while. And so that was like really one of the weaknesses in his game. And so in an era that the pass is becoming more and more and more prevalent, in fact, one of the guys that the Lions picked up in that one of the 8 rookies was a guy named Pug Vaughn, who played for the University of Tennessee, who was like a legendary passer at the University of Tennessee. Okay. And so that's where even the Lions are starting to become a passing oriented team to a certain extent. So the passing game is starting to become huge, and they have one of their liabilities, that again, that's why, for that radical change to get rid of Father Lumpkin was because of his inability, that hole in his game. So I want to read to you the quote from the from what happened from that Brooklyn Dodgers game. Okay, this is in this book here, page 357. So like I say, this is the game they got to win. If they don't win this game, it's over. They've come so far already, beating the Packers, tying the Bears, beating the Bears, and then now this final game against the team that they've already lost against with their old, friend on there. So, okay, right here.
Hang on. All right, go ahead.
You got it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So Detroit Lions have proved their championship caliber. Apparently hopelessly out of the National Professional Football race a little more than 2 weeks ago, Potsy Clark's fine football team has closed with a rush, which entitles it not only to a shot at the title, but the admiration of all Detroit. The Lions exhibit much of the same savage, indomitable spirit which moved the Detroit Tigers for the past 2 seasons. The boys in silver and blue have the old will to win, and there is nothing more thrilling and satisfying in sport than that spirit in action. In their last 2 engagements at University of Detroit Stadium, the Lions easily have been the class of the pro league. There was nothing fluky about either of their victories. No football team we have seen has the versatility and competence that the Lions showed in their last 2 games. Detroit's 28-0 victory over the Brooklyn Dodgers yesterday was especially impressive. It was played in bitter cold on a frozen, rutted field. A tricky crosswind swept the field, blowing out of the northeast. The Lions were especially effective on attack with their off-tackle play. It is the basis of Potsy Clark's well-thought-out offense. There is nothing fancy about it on paper, but the manner in which the Lions perform it makes it a gridiron masterpiece. They simply drive a wedge between the defensive guard and tackle, splitting a path for the ball carrier. Usually the tackle and one of the backs turn the defensive guard in. The right end and another blocking back turns the defensive tackle out. The fullback keeps the defensive end off the ball carrier. The other members of the offensive line go down to block out the secondary. It is one of the simplest plays in the book, but few football teams execute it with the precision and skill of the Lions. If one man fails in his assignment, the play is a flop. Yet the Lions gain on it time after time against some of the smartest and ablest football players in the country. That is how well they do their job. Not only must the play be perfectly timed, but the backs finding the hole at just the right moment, but the line must function as a unit with the same fine timing. The beauty of the Lions' performance is that they play it with variations, as a violin artist might add to the beauty of a musical score with his own improvisations. As we said before, that off-tackle play is the backbone of the Lions' offense. Off it sprout the collection of spinners, reverses, and sweeps and passes, which makes the Lions one of the finest offensive teams football has ever seen. It is an offense not built around one man, as much of the Chicago Bears offense is built around Bronco Nagurski, or the Green Bay Packers attack is built around the passing combination of Herbert and Hudson. It is an operation of 11 men. That's why the Lions attack is perhaps the soundest in football today. It operated yesterday just as well with Presnell and Gutowski in the backfield as it did with Dutch Clark and Bill Shepard in their places. It didn't make any difference who was in the line either. That is the ideal offense and almost the ideal football team. The Lions have something else in their offense which few teams have. So well do the members of the line coordinate that they gain as easily inside the 10-yard line as in midfield. Few teams do that. The Lions accomplish it by unusual smartness in the line. The Lion linemen introduce variations so that they seldom can be said to repeat a play. Basically, it is the same play, but varied to take advantage of changes in the defense. That requires smart coaching and smart playing. The Lions did very little passing yesterday, but one pass scored a touchdown from the Lions' side of the 50-yard line. It was a typical Potsy Clark pass, one which started like a run and continued as a run until the defense was forced to commit itself, then the pass developed. Presnell was out on the left flank, right where Dutch Clark was to take a lateral pass and score a touchdown against the Chicago Bears last week. Gutowski started running to his right, faking a lateral to Presnell. Presnell waited until the Dodgers came streaming in to break up the play. Then he ran straight down the field, right past our old friend Father Lumpkin. Gutowski threw a pass which carried all of 45 yards through the air. Presnell caught it on the dead run on about the 20-yard line, a full stride ahead of Lumpkin, and raced to the rest of the way for a touchdown. Poor old Papa Lumpkins hasn't improved in pass defense since he left the Lions, and this time he gave the Lions a touchdown instead of the Lions' opponents.
Man,
yeah. So it's a nice little description of that game. It's.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
All right,
so now there's more than a chance. That the Detroit Lions have just done their bit, and now they listen. There's a great quote where they basically listen on the radio for the Chicago Bears results to come in, and in fact, the Chicago Bears beat the Chicago Cardinals, and now the Lions are headed to the NFL championship game. How big a difference! Just a matter of 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Just 4 weeks.
Yeah.
The Lions are in last place, facing the hardest part of the schedule that perhaps they've ever faced. You know what I mean? Like, literally, what else can you add to that list? What else can you add to that plate that would make it more difficult?
Injury? No, there's nothing. There's
Packers who had just blown them out. Bears twice in a row on Thanksgiving. And then their old friend Father Lumpkin on a Brooklyn team that had already beaten them once in the season.
Yeah.
And it's at this moment that these 8 rookies gel with these veterans. It's at this moment where they finally come together and they become the machine.
Yeah.
And that it's really at that moment that the genius of Potsy, the beauty of the risk that he took,
right,
overhauling a team that had won 10 straight games and had 7 straight shutouts. He overhauls this team and the guts that it takes to do that. And it coming in because he knows that, like, at the end of the season, I've got to have my starters fresh.
Yeah.
And here they are entering against Green Bay. So that's what nobody noticed. We didn't talk about this up until now. Is the idea that they might have only had 4 games left. They've been at in last place, but they were going into those games with the best players they had in tip-top shape, which was Potsy's plan from the very beginning. That's what I'm saying. The genius
was
of
behind
Potsy
this
Clark.
whole thing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, like, as long as they were within a shouting distance, he knew that they had to get past the Packers and Bears.
Yeah.
He knew it. And he knew that he was not going to be able to do it unless his starters were in prime shape.
Right.
And so he just had to win enough to keep it close, to get to the end of that season and have Dutch and Presnell and all of his starters in great working order. And that's where, like I say, the genius of Potsy really shines is that last stretch. And it's one of the greatest series of games in Detroit Lions history. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? I'm hoping that I convey this, just how incredible that this 1935 Lions team and Potsy Clark's role in this. I'm really, that was really the goal of this, this 4-part Potsy Clark series. So I could keep going on a little bit. So, and I don't want to go too far into it. Well, I got to. I want to set up a little. No, we'll come back to it. I don't want to get too far in it because we start talking about the Lions NFL championship, and I don't really. We'll leave that. Well, I'll leave this to the introduction of the
Let's
Red Wings,
see. I'm not sure if the audio is. Let's see if the audio is going to work on this. We might wrap it up here.
Yeah, that's right. We want to show Potsy
a little bit about Potsy.
Yeah.
And so please,
40 seconds.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Like, subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're watching. DetroitCityOfChampions.com. And let's look at.
I don't think there is any audio for this, but the main thing I want to show is for the viewer that's watching this. Is just it. I love this video because this is like a sort of homage to Potsy because it shows Potsy in a leather jacket. This is like the coolest Potsy Clark video.
All right, is it sharing? Yeah, it's up there. So it's a silent piece.
It is. Yeah, I don't think there's any audio to it, but this is a great video. And this is actually from back when they were back when it was Portsmouth. They were the Portsmouth team.
All right. Oh, there he is.
Yep. There he is right there, bottom left corner. But when he's on his knee, I don't know if you can see it in the first. Oh, so right there he is right there. That's Potsy right there, as it calls, with a leather jacket.
Yeah.
But you throw it one more time in there. I was like kind of talking, interfering with it. It's
awesome,
there you go,
man.
Yeah, there you go.
That's good looking. Yeah, so he's kind of reviewing the game with the Bears.
Exactly, they're going over it. Yep. Yeah. I believe this is the game. That was posted by Sean Dunn, who's a city councilman at Portsmouth, who I got to know.
Okay.
Down in Portsmouth, he went through a great personal expense to. I believe this is the one that there's 2 videos he put out. They found it in some old film canisters, some old nitrite.
Some really clear footage.
I believe this is the footage. There's that. There are 2 videos that he put out.
I mean, for 1930, whatever this is, this is really clear footage.
Yeah, it's a great
compared to the thing you were sharing was all scratched up.
Yeah,
drag it behind your car for how long? Old film didn't last.
Yeah, in this video, I believe if you go on, for anybody that's listening to this or seen it, if you type into a YouTube search for 1931 Portsmouth Spartans, you'll see a few different videos. This is one of them. This is the Spartans at Wrigley Field against the Bears. I think it said 1931 at the header.
Yeah.
But it's a great video. The thing I love about it especially is that intro where you see Potsy like wearing this leather jacket, and it's a really clear shot of him.
Yeah.
And because he actually, from what I read, he wasn't particularly fond of getting his photo taken or any videos. So it was kind of rare to see him.
Right.
And that's why this video is so cool.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But I mentioned Sean Dunn, and this great personal, he went through, personal expense to get these videos put up. There was like I think it was called like a nitrite film where it was like explosive. Like if you like drag your feet on the ground with like kinetic electricity, like you're going to explode the film. Like it's that flammable. It's so flammable. Like a lot of people won't even touch it. And he was able to find somebody that was like, would work in it. And they brought that out. So it's on YouTube.
That's brilliant.
You can see it. Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Detroit City of Champions. We'll be back with more of the story next time, and thanks for being here.